Welcome to Capital City News, your connection to Salt Lake City government. I'm your host, Poonam Kumar. The city is in the midst of transforming 300 South into a complete street, and we're talking to Robin Hutcheson from the city's Transportation Division to find out how we're making it happen. And our History Minute this week tells the story of the grave robber of the Salt Lake City Cemetery. Let's start off by looking at some of the things that have been going on in the city. The public joined Mayor Becker at events all around the city, from the Coffee Garden to Firehouse Floral. It was a chance to relax, hang out with the mayor, and talk about the exciting things going on around Salt Lake City. Two Westside Community Councils recently sponsored a volunteer cleanup session for the front of the Rose Park Golf Course. Council leaders say it's another way to show their community pride. Salt Lake City Mayor Ralph Becker, South Salt Lake Mayor Sherry Wood, and Salt Lake County Mayor Ben McAdams, along with community stakeholders, marked the completion of Utah's first ever multimodal recreation corridor with the grand opening and press conference. The S-Line Greenway is a mile-long green space from 500 East to McClellan Street that includes the S-Line streetcar, public plazas, art, walking paths, a bocce court, and a new segment of Parley's Trail. Salt Lake City is in the middle of a project to invigorate 300 South and make it safe for all users of the street. Robin Hutcheson, director of the city's Transportation Division, speaks to us about what the changes are. Robin, thanks for talking to us today. So we're on 300 South right now. Tell me a little bit about what is happening here on the street.
Well, the city's about halfway through constructing our first ever permanent protected bike lanes between 300 West and 600 East, which will separate drivers and cyclists and hopefully get more people out on the road cycling.
So Robin, why did the city decide to do it this way?
During our public outreach for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan update, which is happening right now, we did a survey. And over 1,000 people responded to that survey. And what we learned is a lot of people feel like they want to ride, and they would ride if they felt safer. And what we discovered is that separating bicycles from moving cars is the best way to increase ridership and safety.
And why is this so important for motorists? Or what benefits are they getting out of it?
What it means for motorists is more predictability. Often what we hear from people driving is, I support bicycling, but sometimes when they're in the street, I don't know what they're going to do next. And what we're able to do here is provide a space in the roadway for all of the roadway users. We're standing on the sidewalk. This is for pedestrians. Just next to us is our protected bike lane. That's for bicyclists. Then there are parked cars. That's for parked cars. And then finally, our travel lanes. And everybody has a very predictable sense of who's going to be doing what within the roadway.
Right. And this project is expected to be completed in October sometime,
Yep,
right?
A little later in October will be complete. What we have now is about halfway through.
Okay. So what's it going to look like?
So what you have on the ground right now is striping, and that delineates the places where the bicycling should occur, the parking should occur, and driving should occur. What we'll have when it's complete are some concrete medians that will divide the space between bicycling and parked and traveling cars. In addition to that, one of the best features, I think, of this project is that we were able to stretch our dollars just a little bit further and do something that the businesses along the street have asked us to do for a long time, and that is complete the medians here on 300 South. Right now, it's just pavement and parked cars. If you look a little further west on 300 South, we have constructed medians, includes public art, and we'll be doing that between State Street and 300 East.
Well, and we've got several businesses along 300 South.
Yeah.
Tell me how this affects them.
We have heard from some of the businesses on 300 South that they're concerned about the reduction in parking. We are seeing some reduction in parking because we've taken diagonal parking and made it parallel parking. We're also hearing a lot of positive responses from the businesses, and that cyclists bring business. When we looked around the country at other communities that have implemented this kind of infrastructure, nationally it's shown that bicyclists are traveling slower, see businesses more readily, are more apt to stop and shop or dine, and we anticipate those effects here too.
Where can the public go for more information?
www.slcgov.com/transportation. There's a link to the 300 South Protected Bike Lane project.
Thanks for talking to us today, Robin. And now we have Councilman Penfold to tell us about District 3.
My name is Stan Penfold. I'm a Salt Lake City Council representative. Welcome to District 3. Salt Lake City Council District 3 includes the historic Capitol Hill, Marmalade, and Avenues neighborhoods, as well as Federal Heights and Guadalupe. It extends from South Temple north to the city limits, all the way from the University of Utah to I-15. The historic homes and winding streets with unique names and lettering systems set our neighborhoods apart. So do the neighborhood shops and businesses. Temple Square is a part of District 3 and brings more tourists into the state than any other landmark. Beautiful Memory Grove is a favorite of dogs and dog owners and photographers alike. And the State Capitol building is the hub of political activity every January through March and brings an abundance of activity and beauty to the area. District 3 also includes beautiful City Creek and City Creek Canyon, as well as the Salt Lake City Cemetery, the largest municipal cemetery in the country. I encourage you to get involved with your neighborhood by joining one of our District 3 community councils, Greater Avenues, Capitol Hill, or Fair Park.
And now it's time for our History Minute.
In 1862, Salt Lake City police officer Henry Heath came forward to pay the burial expenses for an outlaw killed in a shootout, who was then interred at the Salt Lake City Cemetery. When the family of the man stepped forward a week later to claim the body, the entire town was shocked to find the outlaw completely naked in his coffin, robbed of all of his clothing. The investigation led quickly to the house of Jean Baptiste, the grave digger for the cemetery. In Baptiste's home, police found nearly 60 pairs of children's and adult shoes, clothing, and personal belongings, robbed from as many as 300 graves. Baptiste was arrested and sent to jail. An angry mob gathered outside the jail, threatening to lynch Baptiste. Brigham Young had to assure the crowd that their loved ones would rise up in the resurrection in their proper burial clothes, whether they remained intact or had been robbed. At the same time, the police did their best to fix the problem by taking all the stolen clothes found in Baptiste's home and buried them in their own grave at the cemetery. Grave robbing was not a capital offense, and the police knew they'd have to let Baptiste go sooner or later, and since the public was so enraged by his crimes, they decided that banishing him would be the best course of action. They tattooed on his forehead the words, "For robbing the dead," and he was taken in exile to Fremont Island on the Great Salt Lake. After 3 weeks of his banishment, cattle ranchers visited the island to check on their animals to find that one of their cows had been killed and wood had been torn from the ranch house located on the island. It's assumed Baptiste used the wood to fashion a raft, but he was never heard from again. Whether he drowned in the Great Salt Lake or made a new life somewhere, the world may never know, leaving us one of Salt Lake City's greatest unsolved mysteries.
That's it for this week's Capital City News, your connection to Salt Lake City government. Be sure to tune in next time to keep up to date on what's happening in the city. For SLC TV, I'm Poonam Kumar.